Hey there, Scorpio. So, how are you doing? We've got a 2-week forecast coming up, and it's quite a big one. And I have to say, I think this period of time is going to begin the restart of your life right now. I don't mean to sound dramatic, but with this Pluto and Mars opposition, and the recent Mars retrograde, he's still in the retrograde shadow. Things that are happening in this 2-week period, I think, are going to give you all the clues to moving forwards with confidence and ease. So what I'm planning on doing is presenting to you the astrological weather, the planetary weather for the next 2 weeks, and really relate it back to what might be happening for you and how you might use it to the best of your abilities. So hopefully that will work over the next roughly half an hour. If you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa Tanner Munson. Welcome. I hope you enjoy this and find it useful. Feel Good Astrology. I started going under that name about a decade ago. And really, for me, astrology should be used as a tool that can help create a sense of freedom and space and possibility. So it's quite, I've been, I've experienced this myself, where I've had a forecast and it said, this is what's going to happen. And, I don't think they offer much space for people to grow, to think other thoughts. And so I try to present the information to kind of talk about the tendencies, but also how you might choose to approach it. If you've come back, then thank you so much. Thanks for coming back. I really appreciate your support. Anyway, let's get going and find out more. So I've got my trusty slides up. What I want to do is really talk through the core activity over this next 2-week period. So it starts from the full moon on the 13th of April. That's the full moon in Libra. And this period of forecast I'm doing right now is taking us right the way through to the new moon in Taurus on the 27th of April. So it's a 2-week span. During that 2-week span, we're going through the waning moon forecast. So, essentially the moon is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And what that means is, at the start of this forecast, everything is fully illuminated. So we really get a sense of everything that's going on in our lives. Everything that's been hidden previously is on full view. We almost can't hide from the truth, and we can't hide from the life that we've created for ourselves. To me, it feels like everything is catching up. And I just want to be really clear. This is for you as a Scorpio sun, or also as a Scorpio ascendant. I've got Scorpio ascendant. This is very, very useful from my perspective. So, everything that's going on in your Scorpio life right now is on display around the time of this full moon in Libra. Now, this is quite an interesting full moon in Libra because it's happening in a really unconscious part of your chart, a part of your chart where everything that is hidden usually and stays hidden is really, really visible. So all of your self-sabotages, your negative programs that you might hold and think are really normal and quite healthy, all of a sudden, the true cost of how you're being really shows up, in such a way that you can't really escape it. So, from the full moon, usually what happens is we say, oh my God, I love this result. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. And so for the first part of this, the first week of this 2-week period, we're consciously jettisoning things that don't work for us, so where we've identified something that we're doing that just seems nuts now, we let it go, and we consciously and very actively and very visibly release things. But then we get to this kind of magic point, this switch over date on the 3rd quarter moon phase. And you'll see the mystery or the darkness, the unconscious side of life is really coming out. And then we're coming into a place of, we really don't know what else to do. What else can we do to change? We're not entirely sure. And we have to relax, go deep inside. We need to, we might feel naturally more reclusive during this second part of the week. There's some very big aspects going on this week as well. So, with the Scorpio motif of this time, you may well really just want to be left alone, left to your own devices, to see how you might, work on those things that are coming up for you. But essentially, the second week, we are letting go a lot more. And one word that really comes to mind is surrender. This is a time to surrender our old views, the ones that are actually creating difficulty for us. Because obviously, if our life is viewed through one lens, and that lens is not really in your best interest, the whole of your life is seen through that lens. And so you might need a really kind of drastic shift. And that's what I think, as we're coming to the new moon, really gives us. It gives us this amazing ability to kind of trust in ourselves and trust in life. And as we're trusting in life, we know instinctively what to let go of. It's like an intuitive process. And then it brings us to the new moon on the 27th, when hopefully by this time we've really cleared some mental space for ourselves. And I say that very specifically, mental space, psychic space, because of where the previous full moon has come into, and also some space in our physical life as well. And I'll talk about that and really show you that so that you can see it really clearly on the charts in a minute. But before we do that, let's have a look at this as a diary entry. So I've kind of paced this out with some of the biggest aspects that are happening during this time, and I'll talk through them. So this starts on the 13th of April, the full moon in Libra on the Sunday, and it finishes on the new moon in Taurus on the following, 2 weeks later on a Sunday. And that's when you'll get your next forecast from me. And then this third quarter phase is here on Monday, the 21st. And you'll see there's a lot of entries in this first week, not so many in the second. Now, I haven't mentioned all the moon entries because, to be fair, the moon moves very, very fast and its energy isn't so stunning, apart from when it's in the full and the new moon, or even more so at the times of the eclipses. So, the moon is really just getting a cursory mention here. But all the planetary aspects definitely are coming through. And this is where my first comment came up, right at the start of this video. I really do see that Scorpios have had quite a hard time of it. And like, I count myself in this category, given that I've got, my ascendant in the sign of Scorpio. In October last year, 2024, Pluto and Mars were they're moving into an opposition. Now, this usually happens every couple of years. And during that time, the Pluto and Mars opposition is usually done and dusted within a couple of weeks. Not so this time. So they came into an opposition, an exact one, on the 3rd of November. And then Mars went retrograde. And Pluto, I think, was finishing off a retrograde. I can't remember exactly, but Mars especially was, went retrograde straight after. And then they both went into this. No, Pluto was going direct, sorry. And then they went into their second opposition on the 3rd of January. And then, because Mars and Pluto are both going direct now, they're going into their last opposition on the 27th of April. So they've been in an opposition. Now, Pluto and Mars are both joint rulers of Scorpio, according to whether you're a modern astrologer or a traditional one. But they're both really important to the energy of Scorpio. And the fact that they've been, in complete polarity during this time, really since October, to me is an indication of us being pulled apart, really feeling in two minds. You're ready to move forwards, and then there's something holding you back that you can't quite get a grip on. And that was made worse when Mars went retrograde, because obviously Mars is a ruling planet of Scorpio. So Mars went retrograde on the 6th of December at 6 degrees in the sign of Leo, and he went backwards into Cancer. And then I think around the mid-20s of February, I can't remember the exact date, Mars went direct again from 17 degrees Cancer. And then he's moving forwards again. One thing that to me is really showing that we are coming into our own and really getting into this recovery stage is Mars going into Leo, the sign that the first retrograde happened, like where he went retrograde from. This is happening on Friday the 18th. And to me, this is really significant. It was significant towards the end of February that there was a move forwards, that you were ready to really do something quite significant. But this is the second step forwards on the 18th of April, whatever is going on energetically for you, I see that you're going to feel a lot more like yourself. So there'll be a lot more creativity, a lot more joyfulness, like you almost feel younger, a lot more present, a lot more central in your own life. This Mars is really invigorating your sense of vitality. So I really, really love that for you. I really think that's going to be helpful for you to start to feel prominent in your life again. And obviously you should feel prominent. It's your life. But to me, it just feels like you're ready to be seen. You're ready to dazzle. This is significant. This is a significant step forwards. And then it will get even easier from the 2nd of May when Mars is completely out of the retrograde shadow. But this is an enormous step forwards for you. So, talking of retrogrades, on the 13th of April, just before the full moon in Libra, Venus goes direct again. So this is the next part that I want to mention. Since December, we've had either Mars, Venus, or Mercury retrograde, or two of them retrograde at the same time, apart from 6 days. I think it was 6 days between the end of February and the 2nd of March. So we had like a few days in between, but really since the 6th of December, it has felt really intense. There's been, these 3 very personal retrogrades that affect us, at a personality level, at an ego level. It's affected our vitality, that's Mars, our ability to relate to others, that's Venus retrograde. We tend to pine for the past a lot during that time. And then Mercury, Mercury retrograde, we've had 2 of them. And Mercury retrogrades, they kind of confound us. We're not so good at communicating. And so we've all been in this process of going deep inside and trying to work out what's going on. So, from the 13th of April, when Venus goes direct again, we're out of that sort of Mars, Mercury, Venus retrograde funk. So, this is a great step forwards. Then Mercury moving into Aries, like moving forwards, that's another step forwards. Mars moving into Leo on Friday, it's another step forwards. And then the Sun going into Taurus on the Saturday, the 19th. Again, it just feels like in this week ahead, there is this sense of we are moving forwards, we're getting on with life, and things are getting interesting. Now, during this time, and I will show you on the charts in a minute, there is a T-square, and essentially it's 2 planets in opposition with one, equidistant between the 2, and it makes a right angle triangle. And so we've got this T-square going on throughout the whole duration of this period, and it's in between Pluto and Mars, our ruling planets, and then Chiron and or the moon and or the sun in the middle. And so your inner motivations during this period of time are going to be put under extreme stress. Now, I'm not sharing that to make it sound like, you just said it was going to get easier. What I really want you to know is you're coming to the realization of what you need to drop, what you need to surrender to, so that you can really move on and really accelerate. So I see that there is this profound change happening for the Scorpios. Like I really feel like we've been held back really since October, and then the holding back really got even deeper in December. And now it's like we've been held back. And after the 27th of April, when Pluto and Mars are in their fullest of their opposition, and that starts to dissolve and kind of release thereafter, that's when we're at the starting block. And all of a sudden we hear the starting gun and boom, we're off. So, you could be forgiven for feeling like 2025 almost hasn't started, because it's really going to start for you from the 27th. And what's going on right now are just you're coming back into your energy. You're getting very, very conscious of the patterns that are holding you back, and you're ready. You've got the energy, you've got the aptitude, you've got the mind to finally take the action that you need to take. So this is really, really significant. So in a sec, I'm going to bring up the 3 charts that I'm going to show you, to like depict how this is all going down for you. But before I do that, I just want to thank everybody that sponsors this channel, whether you've sponsored it in the past, whether you're ongoing sponsoring it, whether you're a member of my Feel Good Astrology community, however you're doing it, I really appreciate you. And if you would like to support this channel, if you like what I do, or if you would like to join membership, then please do just check out all the links below. In the description field, there's a link to Ko-fi.com, so you can buy me a coffee. Or you can actually invest in membership and join us and get some other perks. But anyway, thank you so much. Without you, this channel would be very different. So let's have a look at these 3 charts, which I think are really going to show you the tensions and the release points that are going on this, in this 2-week period. So this is the first chart. This is one for the full moon in Libra. You see this great big red square that shows a fair few tensions. And then the next one is at the midpoint. I know this doesn't look like it's midway, but there's a lot going on in the first week. So the midpoint on the 21st, if we just go back, so this is the full moon. So the sun is here in a conjunction, exact conjunction to Chiron, no less, and it's in opposition to the moon. So the moon is in Libra, and this is a very, very private part of your chart, the unconscious inner programming part of your chart. So the next one, watch where the moon goes. She's going to be going all the way around to Pluto at this second point. So second point, halfway through this 2-week period, the moon has indeed traveled, and she is in a conjunction with Pluto, still activating. She's still involved in this Pluto, Mars, and Sun configuration. And then watch where she goes as she joins the sun. This is at the time of the new moon in Taurus, the final chart. And that's, when the sun and the moon come together, that's always known as the new moon. So, the sun and the moon are involved in Pluto and Mars throughout this whole period. So yeah, and as you can see, it's really big. It's a square right at the start. Now, this isn't one of the, like with grand squares, and this is what it's called, a grand square, or you might hear people talking about a great cross, because it also appears to make a cross in the charts. What's happening is everything is sort of extremely pushed and pulled. So Mars and Pluto are really at sort of different ends of the spectrum, and the same with the sun and Chiron versus the moon. Now, during those times, it feels impossible to know what to do, but we feel the tension of it. So it's like one of those headaches you can't quite reach. One of the great things with this, though, is all these sextiles and trines going on, because these sextiles and trines are real release points. And so you'll see here, Uranus is one of these release points, and Uranus right now for you is in the 7th house, showing that, you've probably got some very unusual friends and people in your life right now, and their inspiration, their innovation, their edginess may well give you some insight to kind of release this kind of pressure that you're feeling. And let's talk about this pressure. So Pluto down here in the 4th house is really sort of describing this situation where you feel like there's something that needs to change at home. There is something, maybe you're in the wrong house. Maybe you don't feel that sense of belonging. Maybe something at home is really undermining you. Like Pluto can show up as a dark energy that feels like you can't beat it. And it also shows where you become a controller at home because you're trying to make things work. And, it shows the great levels that you will go to have your way at home. Pluto shows where we are trying to have our way, and the level that we will go to make sure that happens. But usually with Pluto, the harder we work, the more we get into the quicksand and we can't get out of it. So my advice with Pluto always is don't fight it. Don't work extra hard to get the things that you're trying to do, because when you're doing that, you're getting trapped in this cycle of control. With Pluto, the best, from my own experience, and I've had Pluto go over my ascendant, most of my planets, it just hasn't gone over the moon. And it hasn't gone over Moon and Jupiter yet, but it will do. In my lifetime, it's going to have gone over all of my planets. I think, pretty much all of them. So I've got loads of experience with Pluto. Now, Pluto, what I notice is when you fight him, it feels like you move. You get a little win and you get pushed back. You know that feeling, where you feel, oh my God, I've just found the solution. Yes, you step forwards like it's a great leap forwards, and then something else happens that you didn't see coming, and it knocks you to your feet. With Pluto, the moment you get out of the fight as you see it, things change and transform. It's almost like it's almost as if once you just trust that life will protect you, and obviously with a Pluto challenge, it never feels like life has got your back. But when you trust that things are going to be okay, the more deeply you go into trust and surrender, the more it actually is okay. But it is one of the deepest challenges. And of course, none of us want to let go of that feeling of control. I need to have control, because if I don't have control, I'm going to die. It feels like a life or death thing. So, this situation at home, I don't know what's going on for you, or how uncertain or insecure you're feeling at home, but this is bringing up a time when it's more important to go with the flow of what's going on, and feel into gratitude of what you do have, and know that the more you surrender and relax, the easier it'll get. Now, at the same time, Mars, during this period, he's going to be in the 9th and then moving into the 10th. So at first, there is also this desire to run away from it all. So it feels hard at home. And then, currently Mars is like, well, let's piss off then. Let's just do it differently. Let's like burn it all down. Let's just like leave it behind and move off and go off in a new direction. And I mean, that brings with it a whole new set of issues. And that's definitely something I've done in the past for sure. And it's worked really well. However, every time you come back, you're faced with the same situation of, where is my home? I don't know where my home is. So this is a very sort of archetypal problem, especially now in this world where it feels like loads of people feel like orphans. They don't know where home is. Home has changed. People coming into their hometowns are different. And then, if you're moving within your country, your own country, it feels different. I've lived in all different parts of my own home country, the UK. And even then, even though you're British, it's like you're still an outsider. Wherever you go, it's like, how can you create that sense of home? How can you be at home in your body? So there's a lot going on there. And it also relates to the family. There may well be a very strong feeling that family is controlling you, or you can't get away from your family, or there's nothing you can do to please your family. And again, Mars is saying, come on, let's go. Hop on the bike, let's go. Let's clear off. Now, during this journey, Mars is going to go into Leo. So if we look at the next picture, Mars is going to be in this opposition with Pluto, and he's going to be in Leo. So there is another way out. And this is actually the one that is worth working through, because Mars here is also showing another energy. And that is, okay, home feels bad. I'm going to put my energy into my career. I'm going to put energy into my presence in this world. I'm going to put energy into how I stand in this world, and very much my physical material assets, and how I seem. Do I have support? Do people follow me? Do people enjoy me? Do people celebrate me? Are people grateful for me? Do I have a good reputation? So all of those things. And again, that's another distraction taking you outside of the home, but it could work, because you could still live at home whilst also developing this. But to me, the real difficulty is that you're looking for that sense of belonging from an actual physical home and a physical family. And by being in this physical home or this physical family, there's this sense of not good enough. Hence why there is this feeling of need to release and run away to avoid the pressure, or to develop something about yourself so you feel better. You feel like you've got a stronger sense of self-esteem. When in actual fact, the harder you try to do that, you may well find that your family holds you back a little bit. But it's not really your family holding you back or the home holding you back. It appears that way. It's just You know, deep down inside, the most important thing is to come into peace in yourself and to surrender whatever feelings of homelessness. So I think this is an inside job. I really do. And obviously I'm going through a similar thing, but what's really coming up is, where did you not feel valued at home in your childhood? Where did you feel not good enough at home in your childhood? Like, if we go again back to this full moon in Libra, which is really triggering it, the sun and Chiron is really showing this sense of not being good enough in your everyday work, in your everyday life. Like, there's something wrong with you. There's something inbuilt. Is it your health? Is it your capability? Do you not feel like you've got a strong physical material presence in life, and you feel like you're letting down the family side? I don't know. But the moon here is in this very unconscious part of your world, and it reminds you of the past. Chiron reminds us of our childhood wounds. So there's something going on here around capability, what you can achieve, and also how you maybe didn't fit in as a child. And so the invitation here, I think, is to include yourself and not take your not take comfort from other people's approval of you, but to deeply approve of yourself. This is what I think is really going on right now, is this call to action, to approve of yourself and to like yourself enough. And of course, if the people in your life don't seem very appreciative and appear a little bit controlling, that's going to be hard. But hey, these challenges, sometimes we get the best people in our life at the right time to show us just how badly we need to love ourselves. So I think this is what's going on. But like I said, there are some zippy, innovative, and sort of groovy, restless, futuristic people in your life, people that are bringing change. They are here to help you understand new ways of being. There's also Venus and Saturn and the North Node and Mercury and Neptune, all here in the 5th house, really encouraging you to actually do what you like. Because when you're doing what you like, you get such a good feeling. Like, when you develop your hobbies or your talents, you get such a strong feeling of joy that you like yourself a lot more. And so these are also happening. In fact, when you're doing that with the people that you like and new people in your life, maybe new people that do similar things, that's also raising the game for you. It's raising the bar. Also, Mars here is really supporting you here. Like, currently your desire to see outside of your usual environment and to go off on an adventure, and later on his desire to make something of yourself, combined with your creativity, could be just what you need to invest in yourself and finally say, enough. Actually, all this will be resolved if I trust myself enough to follow what I do, to celebrate what I do, and to make a career of it. So there are lots and lots of different options. And that really brings me to this very last chart. This new moon in Taurus is interesting. There's a new start in terms of your relationships. And I always think this 7th house, astrologically, most astrologers will say, well, this is about your partner. This is about your relationships. But I also think that this is a mirror. This is showing you a side of you that you can't quite see in yourself and accept. So, most of us are identified here. We really see ourselves in our 1st house, and this Scorpio energy is really describing, somebody who is maybe quite private, quite independent, who is a little bit rebellious, who wants to do things their own way, who doesn't want other people telling them what to do. And there is this kind of slightly divisive and aversive kind of personality caught in within the Scorpio programming. And yet what this new moon is saying, actually, you're not as bad as you think. You're not as badass as you think you are. Sure, you can do that, but there's a side of you that's deeply loving, deeply connecting, that does like to be approved of, that does like to connect with others and to open up and be vulnerable. There is a side that can really share very, very deeply in particular when you're hurt. Like, there is a side of you which is the more Taurian side. I've got a Taurian sister, and one of the most beautiful things is, when she gets hurt emotionally, I remember her as a teenager, she was absolutely open and transparent about the hurts she was going through, and all her friends flocked around her and looked after her. And she's got Libra rising as well, so she's a double Venus, and everyone flocked around her and listened to her and supported her because she was open and transparent enough to do that. She made herself vulnerable, but trusted that life had her back. I never did that. I never believed that life had my back. I couldn't open up. And that's the invitation to you, I think, with this, and me, with this new moon in Taurus, in this part of our charts. And that is to trust, to be open, to allow the love to flow in, to allow the support to flow in. You can't have it both ways. You can't complain, I don't get support, but then you don't really open up enough that people might support you. And you might have to do it a few times. You can't just do it once and then say, oh, that failed. You're gonna have to try it as a practice. So I think this could be a whole new start for you in terms of your relationships. And I think it's great. Now, on the on the subject of relationships, there's a lot I can say on this. I do actually do a relationship and connection forecast, and this new moon, on the 27th, is absolutely all about your relationships and a new start. Similarly, with Mars, one of your ruling planets, going into your 10th house, which is about career and ambition and your status in life. Again, I also do a reading on that. And that brings me to my last point, really. At the moment, I've got a membership, which is a monthly thing. And every time there's a new moon or a full moon, I do a relationships and connections forecast and also a career and ambition forecast for your sign of Scorpio. In fact, I do it for all 12 signs. So, you can also check out the forecast for your loved ones, your children, your best friend, and so on and so forth. Or you could also listen to the forecast for your ascendant sign, your sun sign, your moon sign, entirely how you want to use it. So, if you want the relationship and connections forecast or the career and ambition forecast, i.e. what happens next, a deeper dive to the one I've already given you today, you can get 4 of those each month. Every new moon, every full moon, and it costs $22 a month. And you also get 1 week's free trial, so you can give it a go. Now, some people just pop in for these particular forecasts. That's all they want the membership for, and that works fine for them. But for instance, if you've already thought that you'd like to have a consultation with me at some point, or learn astrology with me, which is something I'm going to be launching at the end of this month, then you might also like a 20% discount, which you get. Or I also do webinars. You get 50% off those. Obviously, if you're just a YouTube watcher or a subscriber on YouTube, you don't get that 50%. So, if you like the way I do things, you get a lot more if you're a member for $22 a month. Also, just a little bit, you help to support my channel. So if that is something that sounds useful to you, if you just want the extra forecast, the extra bit, then all you have to do is check out below. You'll see the link, www.school.com. That's where I host it. You can have a little app. You can download it onto your phone. You can look at it on your desktop. So it's school.com/feelgoodastrology. And like I say, you get 1 week's free trial. So there you go, Scorpio. I hope that was helpful for you in understanding some of the energies going on right now. I mean, like I said, this is the biggest couple of weeks, I think, for you, because you are about to clear a really, we are about to clear such a big pattern. And I think we're going to be so much better off for having done so. So I think this year is finally going to get started for you, and I think you're going to like it. So anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Loads and loads of love to you wherever you are in the world. Hope to catch you another time. Bye for now.